He's having maybe behavioural issues or something.
It can link to nutrition at the end of the day. Like serotonin is produced in the gut.
Yeah.
There's lots of studies of like going towards that route of like, you know, your brain gut, your gut's essentially your second brain.
Yeah.
And like if we release endorphins through our brain, we're going to release the same kind of things. Like I think it was 90, maybe something I read that was like 90% of the serotonin is produced in the gut. If you're eating bad foods, then that's going to affect the way that you're thinking and feeling.
G'day legends, it's Chris here from juicedupgroms.com. Welcome to Grom Chats, where we're going to talk all things kids' health. Since starting Juiced Up Groms, I've become so much more aware about kids' health, physically, mentally and spiritually, and I see a huge need for big change in the future. On this channel, I'll be interviewing people from all walks of life to unravel from many perspectives the common trends in the next generation, all the positives, the negatives, and what we can do to make a difference to reverse the ever-growing and rapidly increasing obesity and disease rate throughout the entire population, but especially with children. With information from many professionals in various fields, we're going to create a platform for families, parents and teachers to discover simple strategies that they can implement immediately to better the health and well-being of the entire family. Together, we can create a happier, healthier future and live life juiced up. Today we have Chris Walker from Chris Walker PT. Chris, welcome. Thanks for being a part of the podcast.
Pleasure.
Part of the chat. We'll get a start. What's your background, Chris?
So I've been a PT for 8 years now. Always kind of been around like health and fitness. Been a pretty active kid.
Yep.
What led me to becoming a PT, I guess, was when I was a bit younger, I kind of came across a lot of challenges in around like mental health, my own health, and wanting to, I guess, be a part of a bigger community. I never really felt like I belonged as well.
Yeah, right.
So for me, starting to become a PT was getting me out of like a lifestyle of like self-sabotaging habits, drinking too much, eating rubbish, just not living a lifestyle that was going to benefit me in the long term.
Nice. So making that change was obviously a big catalyst to
where
you are today. And
yeah, for sure.
How long have you been doing PT for?
So 8 years I've been doing PT. I've been lucky enough to like do a range of things like strength conditioning, functional movement. I've got like an advanced diploma in sports nutrition and done a little bit of cognitive behavioural therapy as well.
Yeah, wow. So you've got plenty of experience in
bits and pieces,
personal training and from all different angles of the way the human body works. So that's really cool. We want to talk a little bit about kids' health.
Yeah.
So have you had much to do with training kids from a young age, or maybe high school students as well?
So yeah, I've been lucky enough to have like a bit of experience in between here and there. So anywhere from like 6 years old up to your later adulthood years of 18, I guess. So I've worked with like little sprinting athletes, basketball players, rugby league, AFL, so more sports development kind of stuff.
Yeah, awesome.
And then like a little bit here and there of like 15 to 16 year olds with like weight loss goals.
Yeah, cool. So you've worked probably a little bit more with the athletic side of kids, so you've seen kids that are a little bit more on the fitter side and have that drive to train, which is pretty cool. So what have you found obviously with kids in that athletic zone? What are their mindsets and their strategies that they use to actually want to be those athletes? Did you find something in them that was like a common theme with all of that, say the age 12 to 15 that wanted to be athletes?
Yeah.
Were they really driven? And
it's interesting because there's usually two types of younger athletes. There's the ones where the parents have influenced them and they're their main drivers, they're their motivation, they're the ones that are getting them to pursue it. And then there's the ones that are really driven and they know that's what they want to do, and their parents are just there to support them.
Yeah, for sure.
Both parents are coming from like loving situations and it's coming from a loving place, but I do find that the biggest difference is one athlete is passionately driven and motivated to make it their future goal to be a sporting athlete in whatever field it may be, and the other one is usually more doing it to please their parents and find themselves in difficult situations where there's too much pressure from parents and they find themselves actually going down a track of mental health at a really young age.
Yeah, for sure, because of that external, obviously, influence. It's not something they're actually genuinely passionate about. It's reflecting in their mental health, and then is that going to most likely lead to not a burnout as such, but more likelihood to quit or leave the sport because it's not actually in them, they're doing it for someone else.
100%. So like over the years, like it's 8 years isn't a long time to be in this scene. Like it's long enough to see trends though. And I always find that when kids are influenced by their parents and it's more for the parents' selfish needs than the child's, you'll find that as the kids get older, and I've seen people go from 14 up to 18, and the trends of 14 to 18, if they're not enjoying it and they're forced to do it for those 4 years, by the time they turn 18, they're out of it, they don't want to do it anymore, they're sick of it, they rebel against parents, and they create these self-destructive habits of, maybe drinking on weekends or hanging around the bad crowd because they've been inflicted and forced to do something they were never passionate about.
Yeah, true.
Versus the passionate athlete who does it out of passion and drive, continues to follow that road with not having the parents fully hold their hand, but obviously supporting them along the way and helping that particular little athlete progress with full support.
And giving them the tools that they need to actually succeed with their passion, as opposed to forcing upon them. I think that's probably like a lot healthier way to go about it. So
100%,
do you think, for any of the parents out there, if your kid is into a sport, what do you think the best approach would be if you want to encourage them to, continue on and pursue that sport, if you think that you can see the potential in that, in that avenue they want to choose?
So I guess like when it comes down to that, like obviously I'm not a parent, so I'm not coming from that field, but one thing I guess I've noticed with really successful parenting is they don't say make someone do it, they ask them, they're like, all right, sweet, so do you like doing this? And they're like, yeah, and then you're like, all right, sweet, so what do you want to take this another step at a certain age? Of course you can't do it when they're really young. You just let them play, have fun, develop, create that connection with their teammates if they're in a team sport as well. Sure. But when the time comes to ask them and they say, I want to pursue this, you're like, okay, sweet, well, I'm going to let you be fully responsible. You're you don't handhold it forever. You have to let them pursue it. If they want to do it, it's their decision, and you continue to support them down that road versus being like, all right, we're getting up 5 a.m. and we're going to do sprints and we're going to do this and that. Yes, you have to follow a road of, training hard to get to those goals. You need discipline in life, but there's a difference between making a child obsess over something in an unhealthy way versus supporting them and keeping that discipline in place to get them to continuously go there. So coming from a loving place and understanding where the child is and where they want to go is important, and then supporting them in that way, I think is the main thing really.
Yeah, for sure. So continually asking the kid questions and asking them why they want to do it, and making sure that it's coming from a good place rather than you sort of forcing it onto them.
For sure. And letting them fall over, you can't just continue to sugarcoat things, I guess, with we said before. For sure. You've got to let them kind of walk their road. Obviously guide them. That's what you're there for, is guiding them down the right track.
As best you can,
but letting them fall over, letting them get back up, because then they're going to build the resilience and the persistence to actually want to do it, because they'll have that passion too.
Yeah, definitely. That's awesome. I think great idea, and I think a lot of parents can learn from that, because something you do see in some sports where the parents are always a bit obsessive about them succeeding when that's coming from the parent and it's not in the child. So that's really good. And with kids' health in general, when it comes to mental health, physical health, and maybe spiritual health, have you seen any sort of, over the last 8 years, any changes or decline or incline in kids' health? Do you see it progressing in a good way? Or
I find that mental health's increasing every year in younger people, more the younger, the kid, the teenager, the adult. It's instead of spawning from 16, it's now spawning from 6, I remember I was training a young sprinter, and her mum came up to me, she's like, okay, sweet, I'd love for you to train my daughter, she wants to go to pass the athletics further, etc. And she was quite young and she was depressed.
Yeah, right.
So
How do you get depressed at 6 years old?
Like how does that happen? It's obviously being influenced on her from her surrounding environment, the people that's involved in her life, and her mum put her on this medication. I'm fine, like if that's whoever's choice to do that. But I do find you need to look at those fundamental things which we've talked about before, which is breathing, moving well, eating good food is the biggest thing.
Definitely.
And then obviously connecting to people, because no matter the age, young or old, we all come across this road of lacking connectivity with friendships. If we've got no connection, we have no tribe. If we have no tribe, then we feel alone and disappointed and depressed.
Yeah, and it's just a slow decline into like you said, 6-year-old with depression. That's actually really sad because at 6 years old I didn't even know what depression was. Like I've never even heard the word uttered. And I think I'm 33 now, and back in my day it pretty much wasn't really a thing. It was very, very rare, and now everywhere I look, and I go to schools and visit all these students and teachers and everything, and then there's a lot of issues in the schools with kids having whatever anxiety or depression or just struggle with social interaction. I think that's really tough for kids, because if they're having all these feelings and then seeing doctors and on medication and stuff, they're not really understanding
how often do they look at the foundations?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, instead of going, here's a script for a medication, let's try and cover this up, instead of saying what's going on at home, how much exercise do they do, what's their diet, what's their relationship like with their friends, all that sort of stuff that you just mentioned. I think super important for kids to really get involved with, and it seems to be kids having a lot more sheltered lives. I think in my opinion, it's there's less activity and interaction as a community, which probably is leading to those issues. And
self-isolation is like a huge thing. Like if we don't feel comfortable, before, when I guess my upbringing was, if you don't feel comfortable, it was like, all right, well, see ya, off you. Like go outside, go play with your friends. Like you don't want to now, but you'll enjoy it a little bit longer if you go out there. And that's not more parental peer pressure, that's more go challenge yourself. If we challenge ourselves, we get resilience, and we find out what we can do and what we can create. And that's what gets people, young and old, to realize, hey, I'm powerful, I can create my own empowerment, and I don't have to hide away whenever I feel uncomfortable. I can rise to the challenge and overcome this adversity, no matter how big or small. But I can create my own power to overcome anything.
Exactly.
Because if we don't, then we find ourselves, we're in this young and old, like I say young and old because it happens every day, to so many different things. But I think we put labels on things like they're too old to understand, it's past their generation, they're too young to understand, they won't understand yet. But from the first 7 years of life, for instance, that's when we soak up as much information as we do to create the way that we will behave every day after those first 7 years.
That's right.
And that's why it's so crucial that in the first 7 years that we teach our kids to act in certain ways. We become really good role models. We're conscious of how we're speaking, how we're acting, because kids see everything.
And they're just sponges. They just take everything in. So
definitely. And that's why it's so important that you lead by example in those 7 years, even for the rest of your life, really. If you're going to be a role model, be a good one.
100%. I always think to myself, like, if I was a kid and I was looking at me doing my job, how would I want to see myself from that child's eyes, and how can I be the best role model for that child? That's why I want to give up drinking, or I have given up drinking, and I want to eat as best I can, and then be as energetic and as happy as I can all the time, because if that's how they see me all the time, they're like, oh wow, what's this guy doing to feel like that?
Absolutely.
And I think that first 7 years, that's why I feel so lucky to be working with kids from the age 3 up towards 12. It's such a... And
a lot of them will look up to you, because I remember, we all have memories of distinct figures in our lives that influenced our lives in a positive way. And the ones that I remember are people who were hardworking, who were nice and kind, and who didn't make me feel threatened by language or behaviours that were negative. And that's what you're doing for kids, which is amazing.
You don't want to rock up to a session and be, long faced, down aggressive, or showing the kids that you're not really interested. You want to be there full of energy, ready to go, so they have the best experience possible every single session. and like that's the greatest gift I can give at the moment, and hopefully it becomes bigger and bigger and better and better.
Yeah.
So I think that's that first 7 years. I'm glad you mentioned that because so crucial, and I think so many kids get pushed to the wayside, and they are exposed to a lot of stuff that's very hard to reverse over a long period of time. If that first 7 years of their life is
trauma
so
filled,
great, trauma filled, or just not a great environment, especially.
It can affect everything for sure.
Yeah, and one thing I want to talk about is probably technology. Like, do you think how much has that influenced children's mental health and physical health in this rapid increase towards a very technological and digital world?
Yeah.
How do you think that's affecting kids?
I think it affects,
Everyone.
kids, adults, everyone.
Yeah.
Like, I'd be a liar to say that I'm not like somewhat addicted to technology. I get instant gratification. I get my dopamine released from my brain every time I get a like or a hit or a comment or something like that.
I love those likes.
Yeah, it's addictive, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's about understanding how to control technology. The impact that it's having on kids is pretty horrendous, because if you've got a kid who's had all the dopamine sucked out of their brain because they're constantly liking, following, sharing, talking, etc., it's it's connecting people, but it's disconnecting people how to socialize. That's something I've realized. Like, if a child's on their phone constantly, and it seems to be getting younger every year, how are they going to socialize with other people outside of that in a positive way, versus being so anxious to see who's commented or liked their photo that they can't actually be fully present? And if they're not fully present in a moment, then that leads back to obviously anxiety, depression, feeling of isolation. This is their friend. Essentially, it's a safety net, because like when we're in a social interaction, these things are teaching kids how to use that as an escape if they feel uncomfortable. So you ever go to like a doctor's, or you go somewhere and you see not one person will look at another person, they'll just look at their phone, and they might even be looking at a blank screen. Who knows?
It's just something to take their focus off what's in front of them. Because
they're afraid to connect, because they've learned how to connect online, and they feel that they don't need to connect in person. Yeah,
correct. And like you said, it's so easy to get that quick happiness fix, that quick little bit of gratification.
If I can get a hit off a phone, why do I want to talk to you? Like,
it takes extra effort to get a good positive response from a person than it is to get from your phone. So I think that's a real battle for us. And like even when we're setting up all these games and activities, I'm trying to make these games so as fun as possible. But then I'm thinking, like, our battle is a screen which is constant, interaction and maximum results.
Instant gratification every time.
So for a kid to want to come out and run around and play our games is a massive challenge, because we're up against technology which is designed and perfectly marketed to make kids and adults and everyone just have that feeling of instant satisfaction
straight away.
That's a huge battle, I think.
Whereas with what you're doing is amazing, because you're teaching people to work long term, so strenuous exercise or moving for say half an hour, and then feeling the benefits after, which is teaching kids that you need to work through a process to reach a reward as well.
Exactly. I think that's one very important thing. I always ask the kids at the end of every session, how do you feel? And everyone will always say how good they feel, which is awesome. And let them know that that's the endorphins getting released in your body. That's because we're exercising, we're outside with humans. That's the result. So
you're filling so many gaps. You're looking after your body, looking after your mind. You're creating connection, and that's the biggest thing. So many people want that instant gratification that they forget that it's so good to just enjoy a process versus the end or start of the result.
Exactly. And I think from the moment they rock up, putting their jersey on, it's all starting, they're interacting with their friends, they get out there and play for an hour, and then this is the result you're going to get from all this, all these steps along the way. It's a fun process throughout the whole hour, and like I'm sure you've had training sessions with kids and adults where right from the get-go, when you introduce yourself to the finish, they enjoy that whole process, because
definitely,
regardless of how hard it is, by the end of it, I don't think I've ever met anyone who said they've had a bad gym session or a bad bad experience outdoors in nature, like if they're doing something that they love. So I think that's really cool. And if I was say a parent and I had a child and I was thinking about getting them into personal training.
Yeah.
Let's start off like with a primary school student. They might be struggling with whatever it might be, weight or some mental health issues or whatever it would be. What would be your advice be to that parent, and where would you sort of start with that situation?
The biggest thing is like I notice like a lot of the time again it's like very parent influenced, which is it's coming from a loving place, which is fine. But the thing is you have to get down to the level that they're on and say, give them the who's, how's and whys. Be like, hey, I'm really worried about your health.
Yeah.
I think for your health, and I feel for me as well that it'd be really good for you to start something that is going to help you long term, or just explaining it in a way that they understand and say, this is why I think you should do it.
Yeah.
This is what you'll get out of it.
Yeah.
And this might be for what we'll do for how it'll go, or you might organise a time with the coach, PT, whoever, to sit down and be like, this is what our values are and beliefs are for achieving these results. This is how their personality is. This is how they like to be talked to, or if there's any worrying factors, you just bring that up in a consultation with a PT, coach, whoever, and you just explain like, this is what they want. They're willing to do it. They want to do it. And this is what we believe would work. But also being open to coaches, PTs, to hearing what they're going to say as well, because I do find that sometimes we will get a little bit sucked into social media influences about this is what you should do if you want to lose weight in 30 days. Great, you might lose that weight, but you won't stay off.
What are you going to gain from it in the long run? That's right.
So making sure, one, that the coach is personalized to you as a person. Two would be making sure that coach or PT actually has the experience, qualifications, and is a good human. And isn't in it for the money, because that's the biggest thing. And three would probably be making sure that you're checking in with your child constantly, like, hey, how's it going? Are you enjoying it? What do you feel like? Do you, like, if you're continuing now, obviously you need to build resilience and discipline to keep them going. It might not be easy at the start, but just reminding them as well that, like, this is what you're doing it for. And just being like, that's what you want to do it for, yes or no. If they say yes, then you go, okay, cool, let's keep going. No, why not? Oh, because it's hard. Well, life's hard.
Life is hard.
So just understanding what, if they're not happy with it, ask why. And if there's an answer it. If they're really not happy because they're uncomfortable with the person, change the person. It's more about like getting to the level of your child and really connecting and understanding, and not talking down to them, but through to them.
For sure. So like having open conversations with the parent, full communication, so that even if you ask the kid, are you enjoying themselves, they might say to you, but then they go to their parents and say, I'm not really enjoying that.
And it's common sense, but I've seen so much where parents will, and this is not just putting a label on every parent, but I have seen a fair majority of people who will talk down to their child, and they'll talk for their child, and then they'll either make decisions for the child. Like, if you're a human, you're an independent human. They're a lot smarter than you think. Like, they understand you.
They get it.
They just want their voice to be heard. But you have to be their biggest sideline supporter to help them raise their own voice too.
For sure. And would you say, in regards to their age, if they want to start training, what would be a good age to start? And if they were, say, quite young, would you just say, okay, we can train, but it's not going to be about, obviously not about building muscles, and you'd work on really cool things like maybe coordination and just skills, and just make it as fun as possible. Just
depending on age, like you could have if you got someone who's really young, you just do fun things like we've got a balance beam there. Let's go do some single leg balancing, or like what even us as adults we juggle, like do some juggling, creating presence, being more mindful of what you're doing in the moment, doing like reaction drills, so like touching the green cone, touching the yellow cone, doing little running drills. Playing mud, was it bull rush?
Bull rush.
Sweet. Do it like catering to the age is the most important thing.
Definitely.
Sure, there's like young kids that do Olympic weightlifting and CrossFit and all these other things.
They're exception.
Like good on them. Like if that's what they want to do, but obviously you have to be mindful of it.
For sure.
You have to build things from step 1 versus step 12. but everything is progress, a progress that you can go through.
Yeah, awesome. I think that's definitely ideal, and adapting to each child and what they sort of want, what their needs and where they're at with their social development and everything is super important. So
yeah, because everyone wants to be listened to.
Yeah, that's right.
Regardless of age.
And it takes a bit of experience working with multiple children to understand how to train, different kinds of kids, I guess. So I found that with ski instructing, every kid's different, every kid responds to. Sometimes it's easy to just show them how to do something. Some kids like to be spoken to.
Yeah.
Some kids need to actually be physically manipulated to be able to do something. So you just got to adapt to each child. So I think it's really good that advice of just making it fun or interactive with it. But if you do get that serious kid, then you can try and push them a little bit and do some more.
There's like so many different personalities out there, and you just have to figure out what their personality is, how they like to be taught, and what it is that they want out of it. Yeah, for sure. And we spoke a little bit about movement and mental health and stuff. So you mentioned nutrition being probably one of the most important things when it comes to a young child and their mental health. Like, how would you, or what would you say to kids out there if they were having a little bit of trouble with their thoughts and a bit of mental health issues? When it comes to nutrition and diet, what would your first few key basic steps be when it comes to eating the right foods and fueling their bodies the right way? I saw something the other day that was super interesting. Yeah. And it's it's a child drinking Coke. Yeah. And then it's a child watering a plant with water. Yeah. Why you wouldn't water a plant with Coke, would you? So why are we giving our kids numerous amounts of sugar every day and expecting them to grow big and strong and feel good? You're essentially I don't know if I should say it, but you're taking years off your child's life. You're killing your child by giving them horrible nutrition. Yeah. Sure, you've got to have a balance. You've got to have treats and etc. That's all cool. I like having a few treats here and there, little snakes or something. But you don't see me doing it for 12 hours a day. So maybe making that treat zone, a very special thing, have it as a reward. If you eat really well through the whole week, perhaps maybe you come to a Friday 100%. Or Sunday or whatever it may be. Little Billy's done awesome. He's had his fruits and veggies all week. Yeah. Now it's time we can have a piece of cake and some ice cream or whatever it may be. Absolutely, yeah, definitely. So living by an 80-20 rule, that's awesome. my example. I like pizza, so I'm gonna eat. Monday, Friday, maybe Saturday, but usually Monday or Friday I'll just eat very clean. Yeah. I usually clean most of the time, but Saturday, Sunday I might have a pizza, or I might go out to dinner with friends. I'm having things that aren't going to make me feel restricted. Yeah. But I'm also having things that are going to look after my body as well. Sure. And nutrition-wise, I think a lot of parents should really spend time actually looking into nutrition. Yeah. Because there's a lot out there. There's so much out there. We have this, thing called Google, and you can, crazy. It's this weird thing called Google. Super strange. Pass this information on. And you can learn anything. Yeah. Obviously, you have to make sure it's legitimate, but there's references on articles. But you don't even need to go to that extent. Just honestly, look at studies on particular foods, what vitamins and what minerals are in what foods. Yeah. The biggest thing I say to people is, all right, sweet. So are you having vegetables? Are you having meats? Are you drinking enough water? Yeah. There's just those basics. Yeah. What's your plate look like? It's a super simple method. You can go deeper into it, what affects the gut, and there's for sure. A lot more there, but you need to start easy. Don't try and be Superman, Superwoman straight away. So keep it simple. Yeah. And have a balance. And understand that, what are we having more of that's going to make us feel good? Yeah. And probably having conversations with your children, after each meal. How did that make you feel? Yeah, ask them. Get them to understand and think for themselves what this food's doing for them, I guess. Because if it, a lot of people say, oh, well, my kid doesn't like that. Yeah. I don't like getting up in the mornings, do I? But I still do it every day. You have to, it's about teaching what the benefits of things are. Yeah. And if you want to, you could be all right, sweet, Monday to Sunday. Yeah. Have as much sugar as you want. Yeah. And then the next week, we're going to eat clean. Yeah. Tell me which week feels better.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
if you experiment,
experiment, because you're showing them the difference,
and
you're explaining in a way, and they're learning through it. So
Yeah.
it's a pretty severe way to learn, but they're gonna know, they're gonna feel the difference.
Yeah, 100%. And like, if they're waking up in the morning and they're completely tired and bugging because their diet's been ordinary, and then the next week they've got all this energy and they want to run around and play sports.
I feel great.
Parents are probably going to notice it straight away too, because then they're like, okay, well.
And it's a learning process for them too, for sure.
It's a good way to build a relationship between your kid and your parents and the food, all as a whole. I think that's probably pretty important because... And
that's something that you do too. That's probably something that you'll bring up eventually, I'm sure, like a little challenge for them.
Yeah, 100%. We want to really encourage that, experimentation with their meals and how they're feeling, and get good positive feedback from all the kids and families, how their children are reacting mentally, physically, and whatever spiritually when it comes to eating a good week of food compared to a not so great week.
Yeah.
And I feel, well, you can tell me your thoughts on all this packet food and everything that's readily accessible. How do you feel that that's affecting us when it comes to a connection with our food? Like,
when you buy produce, like fresh food, how long does it last?
Yeah.
Not long.
Yeah.
Why is it that something in a packet lasts forever?
Yeah.
That's what I like to say to people. Like, what do you think's in that? Like, if we can create all these different like chemicals and substances to keep something, alive longer or alive longer,
then, really dead.
Yeah. Like when you cut like the skin off some vegetables, you lose the nutrients.
Yeah.
You can't. You can have all this packaged stuff, like, you can look at, even looking at sugar-free stuff.
Yeah.
Just because it's sugar-free doesn't mean it's healthy. Like,
that's right.
It's made out of chemicals, unless it's actually from a real stevia plant.
Yeah.
Like, then, it's somewhat, but it's still, at the end of the day, there's so many different mixes and creations of sugar-free stuff that it actually usually affects your gut health too.
Yeah.
Like everything... The best way, like, to simplify it, I just say, if you're gonna eat food, make sure that it's something that's gonna expire.
Yeah, true.
If you have something that is, has a lifetime of 2 years, or what's something, for example, like you've got LCM bar, you've got like those pears that are in those packets.
Yeah.
It's all these different foods that are full of like oils. Like there's a reason that they're lifelong. It's because there's no nutritional value in them. They're not going to serve you. They're not going to help you rebuild your proteins in your body. They're not going to serve you in any way that's going to be beneficial to your long-term longevity.
Yeah, that's really good advice. I think I often say to kids, turn the packet around, have a look on the back and see the ingredients.
Yeah.
If you can't pronounce the word that the ingredient,
don't worry about it.
Do you think that's a good idea to put that in your body, because who knows what that 15-letter word actually is.
100%, definitely. Like, and you look at everything. Like, everything has all these different like inputs. Yeah. Even like juices. Like, you can get orange juice, or you can get oranges and make your own orange juice.
Yeah, 100%.
Like, how much of that orange juice is actually orange juice? Like, my perspective is, if it's not going to expire, if you can't see that it's actually been grown somewhere close, or if that it's just something that has a 2-year, 3-year, even a year,
it's a long
months lifespan, then it's not worth eating. You can have pizza that's made out of fresh ingredients.
That's right. Homemade pizza. That's a really fun exercise. It goes back to that journey, like from the start, buying the ingredients, rolling out your dough, putting the toppings on. That's a cool little journey, and that's a way more fun way to make and eat pizza.
100%.
Than ringing up and saying, "Hey mate, can I get the meat lovers sweet?" Bang bang, pick up, eat, scoff your face, and
Domino's, like, prime example. It's like a cardboard box pizza. Like, it is. It's just full of oils and like. Yeah. I could go on about that stuff.
There's a lot to talk about with nutrition, but I think those basic fundamentals, like you said, expiration date. You were saying that's a really good point. Like, if it's lasting for a long time, is it natural?
Yeah.
And then what was the other one you were talking about? Researching, just taking the time to find out.
Have a look at the labels.
And if your kid is having maybe behavioural issues or something,
it can link to nutrition at the end of the day. Like, serotonin's produced in the gut. There's lots of studies of like going towards that route of like, your brain gut. Your gut's essentially your second brain. And like, if we release endorphins through our brain, we're going to release the same kind of things. Like I think it was 90, maybe something I read that was like 90% of the serotonin is produced in the gut. If you're eating bad foods, then that's going to affect the way that you're thinking and feeling, and you're not going to produce as much.
So you're pretty much depleting your serotonin from the inside.
Yeah. Essentially. Like, you know, there's so many studies out there. There's PubMed, like if you want to look into it, PubMed's like a huge database of studies that they do all the time. But there's so many like independent studies on like littler cases that they don't produce or show people too.
Yeah, sure. So there is information out there, guys. Just start searching and start, you know, experimenting. You know, find out what your kid actually does really enjoy, and that way we can work on how they're feeling as opposed to just throwing in the packet stuff straight in the lunchbox and sending them on their way. Maybe start having a bit more conversation around, you know, around food and nutrition and
whose, how's, and whys. If you can teach someone to be independent, they'll start to pursue that for sure. And I know, like I always ask people, I'm like, would you like to feel your best?
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. If they say no, then that's a tough one.
Well, you know, like why you say, all right, you want to feel your best, so why are you doing this? Oh, because it's nice. Well, okay, sweet. Well, it kind of comes down to the instant gratification.
Yeah.
It might feel good right then, but 3, 4, 5, 6 hours later, you might have 6 hours of feeling like absolute rubbish.
Yeah.
And then you're changing the way that someone thinks and feels. That then will go into behavior patterns.
Yeah.
You just look at cognitive behavioral therapy. It's thinking, speaking, feeling, behavior.
Yeah, right.
So if we can start to hone in on having the nutrition to look after the way we think, we're going to speak better, we're going to act better, and then we're going to create a new behaviour that is a more positive way versus a negative way.
Yeah, for sure. So starting on the inside.
Yeah.
Very, very important.
And breathing. You got to breathe.
There is a lot of really cool little strategies. Like, say for a young child, if you wanted to just start creating some really positive things in their life, what 3 tips would you just give them to take away that they can start doing every day? That are gonna.
One you said to me this morning, which was good. Go out in the sun for 10 to 15 minutes as a minimum and non-negotiable.
Yeah.
Get outside. The sun's not outside. There's still UV rays coming.
Yeah.
Get outside. Get some fresh air.
Yep.
The second one would be eat well.
Yep.
And then last one would be move, but do it with a group of friends if you can.
Yeah.
Because then you're hitting 2 things: connection, and you're doing movement to look after your body.
100%. 3 awesome tips, Grommies. You can take that away right now. Sunshine, move, and eat well. 3 things that'll make a huge difference to your daily life, and if you're consistent with it, I think you'll see massive positive changes.
For sure.
Probably one more question for you. Okay. Yeah. So going back to Google, and we have all this information at the tip of our fingers, and books, and you know, so many people with so many different trends and ideas and everything about health.
Yeah.
Why is it that you think that right now in 2021 the health of the population is probably at its worst? Considering we know more than we ever do, but we're still unhealthy, and you know, so much of the population's on medication, and mental illness is just rising rapidly, and suicide, all these things are happening. What do you think, in your opinion, and your experiences working with people and training people, what do you think might be the biggest catalyst for that sort of direction of the humans?
People have lack of resilience. People are getting lazier. People aren't challenging themselves, so lack of challenge means that they're not creating empowerment in themselves. So they're losing like positive values and beliefs that are creating an identity that would be a successful life, and replacing them with instant gratification and probably instant reward. Essentially the same things. Instant gratification is getting something straight away. Instant reward is getting something that you don't deserve. So no one's working towards being their best version of themselves, because it's so easy to get whatever you want in life now, and people making you feel like you deserve it when you don't.
That's a really good point.
That's the biggest thing. Like, you know, like I'm a straight shooter with my clients. They're like, oh, I deserve this. Like, life's so hard. I'm like, why is life hard? What have you done to improve your life? Oh, you sat on the couch for 6 hours. And you've watched Netflix. Or you've scrolled on Instagram, or you've eating shit food. Well, guess what, Sally? That's your fault. Wake up.
That's not life being hard. That's you choosing to.
If I had to let my one rule that like I've really been reflecting on lately is if I'm not challenging myself at least 3 times a day, then I'm not growing and I'm not creating a stronger version of myself. So values wise, I think everyone should sit down, think about what their values are, create those values. And if the whole population did that and they seeked resilience, they seeked challenges, they looked for adversity in their lives, and they became so anti-fragile that nothing affected them, and then everyone would be fit, healthy, and they would be living a long life. You know, there's a reason that we're in such a obese pandemic essentially. It's just because like everything's easy.
And if we're finding that with this virus, that majority of the people that are dying are suffering from obesity, heart disease, and comorbidities. So that's a sign of poor health. If something comes along and you're not healthy, you're at big risk of
100%
losing your life. So how, if you say we were going to have another pandemic in 10 years, how would you like to prepare for that physically and mentally? Like, you'd want to be in the best shape of your life.
I don't know if personally, I'll just say it anyway, I guess. But like pandemic for me, in a selfish way, was great. Because it challenged me so much that I had so much growth in a small period of time where I was forced to learn about more things. I was forced to adapt to a circumstance in business where I lost 80% of my business. So I had to really adapt and create new ways of creating income for myself. So I went fully online and I spent more time actually working out, even diving more into my health, looking at more things, understanding how the brain works. I was reaching out to more people, those fundamental things. Every single person who was in a pandemic started to do, because they were challenged to, they were forced to have time to reflect on themselves, and they were forced to actually do something and not be distracted by all these flashing lights all the time.
And we all had to make that decision. Are we going to better ourselves during this time, or are we going to just, sit there and binge watch Netflix? And
and I understand that like you don't have to do a million things.
No, not at all.
But like you can sit
Little
down
things.
for an hour out of 24 hours and you can learn one thing or read a little 10 pages of a book a day. In that time. But if there's no flashing lights and there's no like loud noises and there's no instant gratification, then we're left alone with our thoughts. And then we reflect on ourselves and then we understand who we are and who when we thought we were going to be, but we're not that person. So it created so much responsibility for every person in the world that you notice that a lot of people connected more, a lot of people created more, a lot of people understood that they weren't happy in their job.
That's true.
So that's why a lot of people changed jobs in that time, and they made life choices because they actually had time to reflect and respect, I guess, what led them to there and what they need to do next. They couldn't hide anymore. They were outside. Everyone's seeing them.
It was like a big, unveiling and exposure of everyone's life, and
we're all vulnerable.
That's
which
right.
is great.
Vulnerable's just a part of life, and you got to be ready for change and ready to adapt.
100%. I don't know if I mentioned it. Oh yeah, I told you heaps, but like obviously for everyone watching, like I'm a speaker for Batir, a charity that goes around to schools and talks about vulnerability. And like one thing I learned from that, like just quickly, was that if you're not vulnerable, you're going to hold that all in. And then when you hold that in and you never express yourself, you'll never really understand how to control your emotions.
That's exactly right. And having a nice, clear, strong mind through those simple strategies we spoke about before makes those decisions much easier. You don't get frantic, you don't buy into the fear, you don't let all these external sources, make your decision for you. You can process it, think about it, and move forward in the best direction that you think's best for yourself. So
definitely.
Awesome. Chris also does TravelFit and does retreats away with clients, doing a whole bunch of stuff. Do you want to quickly tell us about that, Chris?
So at the moment, with my retreats, it kind of dives into the mind, body and soul a little bit more actually.
Sweet.
So I have like a hypnotherapist, an NLP coach, which is neuro-linguistic programming. It's kind of like cognitive behavioral therapy, but it's about going back to memories and anchoring positive emotions to negative experiences. So helping people overcome trauma and whatnot. a dietitian.
Yeah, perfect.
I've got a life coach, yoga teacher, meditation teacher, and the retreat is in Byron Bay, where we stay away for 5 days. People go exercise, they eat good food, they do activities, and they do things to serve the community.
Yeah.
And we give you tools to change the way you think and feel for life.
Nice.
And it impacts the way that people actually live a successful life or an unsuccessful life as well.
Elevator hold you.
Yeah. Yep, right. Yeah, so ideally, helping people change the way they think and feel,
Yeah.
and getting themselves out of self-sabotaging habits. So there's lots of retreats out there. You go on a retreat,
Yeah.
you work out, but then you get straight into the beers or you party. But there's nothing really out there, I found, that actually teaches people how to change their life for the better. So that's why I created the retreat at a whole nother level.
Sounds absolutely amazing. I think creating new habits and bettering yourself in many different ways, mentally, physically, spiritually, and becoming who you need to be. TravelFit, Chris is the man. That was an awesome chat. I learned so much just from that one chat. I just finished my PT course, and I really want to learn, the ins and outs of how to work with all different types of clients, and especially children. So, thanks for sharing your valuable information, mate. And,
Always a pleasure.
Hopefully, we can have some more chats down the track and keep learning and keep growing together.
Absolutely.
Thanks, mate.
Cheers.
Cheers, eh?